This episode is a walk back to the closing of the camp in Kollengod. We back in, let's say, 1967, mid-February. Because as instructed by the geologist in charge, we had to be back in the office in Kozhikode at least by 10th or 12th of February, so that that office in Kozhikode will be in a situation, in a position to finalize the financial obligations to the Directorate of Geology sufficiently early to finalize the expenditure, etc., for the financial year ending 67 March. So one thing that happened when we were about to close the camp was the news that Satya Sai Baba of Puttaparthi was going to come down to the town and will begin the Kovilagam at Kollengod. Kovilagam is a palace only. For some reason, the Rajas of those days in Malabar, they used to call their home or the real estate as Kovilagam. It's a sprawling house, one-story house. There is several buildings are there, and there is what you call as the sanctorum of the Kovilagam, which will be something like a two-story building, with well kept rather, because they have money, unlike other small Kovilagams which are on the path to ruin. Anyway, and we made sure that we will try to get a view of Satya Sai Baba. We have only an idea about this man's face, a godman actually, with a afro-style hair, curly hair, well-groomed, and even, enlarging his face with the lock of curly hair. And then we decided that we will be there in sufficiently early so that we will get a peek, we will get a chance to see this gentleman, godman rather. And we started from our what is called Muttalamada residence by a bus in the morning, reached Kollengod about 7:30 or so, had our breakfast in our tea shop, which is there, who is familiar with us, and then inquired about the location of this Kovilagam. And this guy in the shop said, "Sir, it is only just about 1 mile from here. It is in walking distance. It will take only 20 minutes to reach there." Something like that. Then we decided to walk down through the road in the direction of Kovilagam, and we went in there. There were very few cars, but a lot of people, 50 to 100 people around, waiting and watching in the yard, in the front yard of the Kovilagam. And we just, once we got in, people were looking at us because for some reason we always looked strange as or strange creatures. Or as, definitely we are strangers in that community. And then I inquired about, how to, when to, where to, etc., to see this God man. Then this gentleman told that he was told that he will give a so-called darshan only at 9 o'clock in the, what is called a hall in the so-and-so building, and pointing at that building. So I looked at the wristwatch, and there was some more like 20-30 minutes left. So there is no queue, etc., etc. But people were disciplined rather. Nobody was rushing. Of course, some will be there always, 5 to 10% of the crowd everywhere. They will not be in a situation to withhold their desire to rush and get the first opportunity to grab anything, whether it is a darshan or some free food or whatever. Anyway, by about 9 o'clock, close to 9, or at the given time, announced time, this gentleman appeared. He is not a very big person, it is not a large build or whatever. He is like 5 feet, probably weighing 50 or 55 kilograms. And naturally, he was very well groomed, made up, with all kinds of incense or the, attire, a saffron long gown from neck down to the toe. And there was a kind of a decorative chair in which he was led to, and he took that seat. And then the show began, people with, the nobility, let us say, with people who were, again, well groomed and well fed and well moneyed. They were given the first priority, and then came the chance for the, what is called the middle class or the lower class. And along with that, we also went and saw this gentleman. What we were watching was, this God man will take some kind of gift, or what is called prasadam, or what is called some thing that you can keepsake material from the lock of hair. This is well-known thing on art and science, or only art or magic. That used to be always the thing that was attached to this God man. Anyway, we had our darshan, and then we walked back. And the next day or so, we just moved over to Kozhikode. Once we reached Kozhikode, it was the beginning of the third week of February. And we sat in the office very carefully. Then on the day we went to the office, Janardhanan and Radhakrishnan were coming down from Kannur by early morning train. They strapped into the office, saw the geologist, and took leave for that day from the office work, sort of a rest day for them. Then what I and Keshwan Nair did, Keshwan Nair knew how to prepare the bills, etc., because he was in service. He had 2 more years of tenure in the department. So what he did all the writing, and I had all that was just as signing it. And I asked Keshwan Nair to make sure that everything is done all, and don't worry about that, Thrivikramji, I will do it, no problem, don't worry about it. So that way that thing happened. Toward the close of the week, in the morning when we were in the office around 10:30, one gentleman came in inquiring for the geologist. And he's actually a taller, darker complexioned gentleman, looked like an elite guy. And then our peon, Patna, took this gentleman to geologist's office, and they were talking and laughing for some time. Then the assistant geologist, Janardhanan and I were called in. We went in there, and we were also asked to sit in the guest chair. We sat there, and this geologist Gopalakrishnan Nair introduced this new personality to us, saying that this gentleman is Mr. Joseph, a geologist working for the UNESCO somewhere in Paris. Well, that rang a bell in my mind. Anyway, that will be later. What about that bell? What is the reason of the bell? Anyway, our mission then is to accompany this Mr. Joseph to the Elitimala, which is an iron ore deposit, as well as the Cherupa and the Westhill deposits. These, Calicut iron ore deposits are magnetite deposits, mainly magnetite quartzite occasionally, and not magnetite quartzite and pyroxenite combined, unlike in the south. So, Elitimala is north of Kozhikode, maybe 1 hour drive those days. probably much faster and quicker now. And there is a lot of objection in mining or touching the Iliotimilla iron ore deposit these days, because everyone is so much conscious about the environmental implications of mining. Okay, that much for that point. Then, of course, Mr. Joseph said we will, looking at us, told tomorrow morning by about 7 o'clock we can leave Kozhikode to the field area to see this, to take a look at this deposit. And of course, we had the advantage of a topographic sheet, and we did not know much about the what is called the iron ore deposit, but yet we said we will go. No, sir, no problem. Absolutely. So early morning, Joseph came with the jeep. Oh, okay, why Joseph is welcomed that way? He had gotten an introductory letter from the Director of Geology, C.V. Paulos, to the geologist in charge of the regional office, requiring the regional office to provide all support and logistics for the visit of this expert. He's a geologist basically, hailing from somewhere in Thiruvalla. Remember, in one of these so-called episodes, I made a mention of what is called fluorite, and when we were in the final year MSc class, we went along with Professor to look up for the fluorite. Finally, with the so-called fluorite turned up as corderite, and that was also based on a letter written by Mr. Joseph to the Vice Chancellor Samuel Mathai 3 or 4 years before he came to Kozhikode in an earlier visit to his homeland. Anyway, so next morning we went and we had packed food, and of course Mr. Joseph was living in the beach hotel in Kozhikode. And it's a fabulous place, a small place but very fabulous, overlooking the beach, and our whatever we have to eat on our way and on our walk through the deposit was provided for by the hotel and through the Mr. Joseph. Well, packed food was loaded in the car, a jeep by Joseph, and all of us started moving toward to Iliotimilla, and we rather kind of knew how to reach Iliotimilla. For one thing, we have the topographic sheet, and second thing, there are people all over, and we can ask where is this Iliotimilla and what is the fastest route to reach there. Anyway, once we went to the foothills, then there is no way that you can drive up. Well, that's the hard part of work of the geologists those days, because good roads ever. So then we told Joseph, you come to so-and-so point, so-and-so village, we will be there after, say, like 2 o'clock. And then, we started the walk up the hill first, carrying our food also, and as well as the topographic sheet. I say topographic sheet repeatedly because it is a very important instrument with the strategic and what is called strategic and importance, because if a topographic sheet reaches the enemy hands, it will be very easy for the enemy to find out where and what are located in which part of the country. So in the event of a war, for the enemy to attack certain targets, it is easy if they have the topographic sheet. So that's why the secrecy, and every year Director of Geology will have to give an undertaking that all the topographic sheets purchased by the department are in safe and secure custody of the department, and all of them are intact. That is the catch. If you lose a topographic sheet those days, the given impression is that you will lose your pensionary benefits, and probably you will be put in jail. Okay. Anyway, so with the topographic sheet, we had no big problem in walking up, and up to once we reached the crest of the deposit, the ridge, and there was no humans. Of course, we always take what is called a field guide. We had 2 of them engaged. And one of the things I always remember now, even at this point, is Mr. Joseph told us, our we are boys compared to Joseph. Joseph is in his early 50s. He's told, no, don't walk in ahead. Let the field guide go first. If there is an attack by a wild animal or a reptile, then the field guide will take the beat, and we will be able to escape the hazard. So we kept in mind, and we walked along, looking at the exposures, breaking tips and pieces, looking at the topographic sheet as to where we are, etc., etc. And by about in between, we stopped for a drink of water or a bite of some food that we were carrying. And then finally, Mr. Joseph declared by 2 o'clock that now we will go back to our car. And from there, probably, by that time we have seen, the team had seen almost 3/4 of the exposure. Well, then Joseph said, tomorrow we will come again. We said, all right. So finally, we went down, got into the car, and then in another hour we were back in Beach Hotel, and in Beach Hotel Mr. Joseph offered a beer for us. We love to have a beer, especially it is also free. It is offered to us. So we were doubly glad to have a beer. And he wanted us to keep the topographic sheet overnight, so that he wants to read the topographic sheet in further detail. And promised us that next day morning, again by 7 o'clock, you have to be, we have to be in the hotel. We will go along with this gentleman to what is called Elliot Timala. No, to what is called Cherupa deposit. That is on your way beyond the Medical College Calicut, and we're still probably now in the perimeter of the town. Anyway, to the northwest. And then he asked Janardhan, shall we give him the topographic sheet? Then he answered very coolly, you decide whether you want to take it back or keep it with this gentleman. Finally, anyway, we gave it to him. To our surprise, the next morning when we went in there at 7 o'clock, this man has locked up the room, checked out and gone off by the early morning train. We did not know where he went. This was a disheartening news. It's heartbreaking news for us, both of us, because we will be put to task by the geologist. Not only that, the geologist also will be in soup. He had just about 10 years to go before retirement. So he was upset when this news was presented, and we did not know what the answer, how to procure a topographic sheet. How there are rules regarding if a topographic sheet is lost, what you do. So that they did exist, but we did not know what the details were. So the following 1 week was a hell of a time for me as well as Janardhan. Every morning there will be 1 hour of harangue by the geologist to us. We were our dereliction of duty, so many things were quoted from the service rules. Finally, at the end of a 10th day or so, our disappearance of Joseph, the morning the postman brought a registered letter through the Gopalakrishnan Nair in his name. And we did not know what it was. Then, and once the postman left, Nair called us in. Our peon Patna came and said, Sara vilikkunnu, or you let go and see the geologist. Then what happened? The registered letter had the topographic sheet enclosed in it. That was the episode of a dilemma out of which we escaped, the topographic sheet story. Thank you.